There are conditions and rules and restrictions in life that you can't possibly know about without living them. And no matter how sensitive you think you are to someone else's conditions or someone else's needs, until you actually live it yourself, you can't know it. And that was Matthew Epps, first a guard and later an inmate.
Oh, snap.
This is Jen.
This is Becky.
And this is Too Close to Home, and we're going to talk about the ghost of Eastern State Penitentiary. I did it right this time, Jimmy. Don't get mad. I've been calling it East State, like it's a college or something.
Penn State.
Penn State, like all these different things. So
I love a twist when you start out as a guard and end up as an inmate.
Right.
There's got to be a good story behind that.
I was like, they had to make this a typo. Hold on. Oh, juicy. So my sources, I'll start out with that, was Wikipedia, as always, NPR, our boys at Ghost Adventures, the Twilight tours at Eastern State Penitentiary, Smithsonian Magazine, Philadelphia Encyclopedia.org, savingplaces.org, easternstate.org, as well as their audio tour transcript.
And don't forget the most important source, yourself.
Myself. That's right, Becky. You got it. You got it.
Yes.
So I did go. This has been a dream of mine. I don't know about you, but when I was a little girl, I did dream of going to an abandoned prison.
Same.
But we had went by there, and they have like this little playground right outside the walls.
Adorable.
And it's like baby pen or something like that. Like it's some hokey thing. And we were just hanging out before we were leaving Philadelphia, and we were like, we have to come back and do it. So when we went, on our Pennsylvania tour this last April, May, we decided, let's see if we can get a tour. And what do you know? In the summertime, they do twilight tours where you can go to the prison at dusk and experience it in all its spookiness.
Fuck yes.
They also have a Halloween thing, so this is not the same. This one's more educational, and it's, to me, intrinsically more creepy than going, because you're going with the expectation at a Halloween tour, be like, oh, I'm gonna get spooked and some guy's gonna come out with a chainsaw. If a motherfucker came out in a chainsaw on this tour, we have some other problems to discuss.
True.
First off, we're in downtown Pennsylvania. I'm in Philadelphia. Why do we have chainsaws?
Because you're in
downtown. Does your eye see
downtown.
a tree anywhere? I do not.
Because you're in downtown Philadelphia. There you go. There's your answer. That's why.
And so we definitely got tickets and went. So they don't want you to record for like ghost hunting purposes, but we're bad. And we snuck our little recorder in. So we all remember the Gettysburg episode. Well, hold on to your butts because we got some Eastern State Penitentiary. Whoop, whoop. All right. So a lot of this episode is going to be more about the history than the ghost, which is what I've discovered in my research. But to get to the ghost, you have to understand how they were made. So let's talk about the ingredients for this ghost soup.
Do it.
You remember what year was the Declaration of Independence?
1774?
Yes.
Or is that the Constitution? Same thing?
Constitution is 1776, I think. Right? I don't know, man.
Put in a fun fact.
Jimmy, fun fact this part, okay? He just went.
Jimmy's Freedom Fun Facts. Unlike these two communists sitting next to me who didn't pay attention in history class, I got the beats covered. The Declaration of Independence was ratified by the Continental Congress on July 4th, 1776, and the ratification process for the Constitution began on June 21st, 1788. Fucking commies.
Right around the birth of this country, Philadelphia was in the spotlight as Independence Hall birthed the Constitution. There was a problem, however, with appalling conditions of Walnut Street Jail. I did not realize this at the time because we also visited Independence Hall. Behind Independence Hall is Walnut Street, and that's where that jail was. Men and women, adults and children, thieves and murderers were jailed together in disease-ridden, dirty pens where rape and robbery were common occurrences. So it's like every thing that you would think a terrible prison would be. people like chained up to the walls and fucking thirsty. Can I have some more pretzel? That kind of stuff. Jailers made little effort to protect the prisoners from each other. Instead, they sold prisoners alcohol, up to nearly 20 gallons of it a day per prisoner. 20 gallons. How?
They just purchased it like it was on the commissary?
Yeah. And so food, heat, and clothing also came at a price. And it wasn't unusual for prisoners to die from cold or starvation. This issue sparked the creation of the Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons. It's really cute. Very small, right? Most of the prominent members of this were also a part of a religious society of friends, a.k.a. the Quakers.
Oh.
And we're not just talking about Quaker Oats. I did not really know anything about the Quakers other than the oats. So I had to kind of goggle that a little bit. They are people who belong to a historically Protestant Christian set of denominations known formally as the Religious Society of Friends. Sounds like an excellent cult name. I'm not going to lie.
I never knew that they went by the Religious Society of Friends.
Right? It's like an incognito. It's like Fight Club, but we ain't talking about Fight Club. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like the Religious Society of Friends is not a good thing.
No. I'm going to be your friend. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Philadelphia was actually started by William Penn, who was a Quaker, and there are quite a few lasting impressions still visible today of the Quaker times. Past Quakers were known to use "thee" as an ordinary pronoun, refused to participate in war, wear plain dress, refused to swear oaths, oppose slavery, and practice teetotalism. You know what that is?
Mm-mm.
It's where you don't drink at all. That's
not
that sober living. And it's not because you're an alcoholic. You just, you know what? Alcohol ain't for me. I don't understand. You do you, but I don't understand.
I'm lost on the part where they totally use the word "thee."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Thy, thou. Yeah, like.
Okay, whatever.
You just trying to class it up. I see what you're doing, son.
And they were using it as a pronoun, so were they like before we had special pronouns?
Before he, she, they. It was thee.
Okay.
Thee, she, he.
I don't know.
I don't know. Just a small town girl living in a lonely world, you know?
I was just wondering if they did it like how people don't want specified pronouns now, or is that what they were doing then?
I guess. Members of these movements are generally united by the belief in each humanity's ability to experience the light within or see that of God in everyone. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they realize that you can't, there's no real, how do I describe that? There are evil people in this world, but at one time they were somebody's baby. You know, at some point they were innocent.
You guys can't hear it, but my eyes are rolling so hard.
And they believed that God was still in all of us, even if they were being jackasses. So
okay, so these are the founders to help with the movement of you can be the toy box killer or Ed Gein, but God still loves you and there's still a place in heaven.
That's it. That's it.
I feel more
Nail
like
on the head.
The Amish where, nah, you got to earn that motherfucking spot because there are limited seats on that bus.
And you know what? You could try as you might, and you still might not go, bitch.
Yes. I feel more towards the Amish than the other way, but who am I? I'm just a girl doing a podcast with my best friend.
Exactly. So Dr. Benjamin Rush was a prominent Philadelphia physician with an interest in politics. In 1776, he served in the Second Continental Congress and signed the Declaration of Independence. He was at the forefront of mental health studies and earned the name the father of American psychiatry for his groundbreaking observations about diseases of the mind. He had started really pushing for radical change to Benjamin Franklin and his contemporaries. He was convinced that crime was a moral disease and suggested a house of repentance where prisoners, I mean, I guess he viewed that the same, could meditate on their crimes, experience spiritual remorse, and undergo rehabilitation. This method would later be called the Pennsylvania system, and the institution, a penitentiary.
Shut up. Mm-hmm. That's where it came from?
So you're playing your penance.
Loving it.
Fun fact alert! Most institutions...
Not only do you get to hear stories of crime and ghosts, but we also are here to teach you.
We're just educators at heart.
True.
Most institutions were built on the Auburn system, which held that prisoners should be forced to work together in silence and could be subjected to physical punishment. Which this one is like, no, you can't talk to nobody. You by yourself.
The Auburn one?
The Auburn one is the one where they would be together, but they'd have to be quiet.
Okay.
So like Sing Sing and stuff, that's on the Auburn system. The Philadelphia Society for Alleviating the Miseries of Public Prisons, also known as the Pennsylvania Prison Society, so glad somebody narrowed that down, agreed and set out to convince the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Despite the changes made to the Walnut Street Jail, it was still quite overcrowded and not developed enough for the burgeoning population of Philly. After a deadly riot at Walnut Street in 1820, prison society members escalated calls for a larger state institution purpose-built for the separation of all prisoners. So, now that we got why it came about, let's see how it was created. Designed by John Haviland and opened October 25th, 1829. So, like, this bitch is old. Eastern State is considered to be the world's first true penitentiary. It was said that it cost $780,000, which is today's equivalent of $18 million. To construct, and making it the most expensive prison ever constructed at the time. It was also the largest building in America at that time. Just that April before, legislation specifying separate or solitary confinement of labor was passed. Many leaders believe that the crime is a result of the environment, and the solitude make the criminal regretful and penitent, hence the word penitentiary. I love that.
I do too.
Plans are finalized to prohibit all contact between prisoners at Eastern State Penitentiary. A steady stream of government officials traveled to Philadelphia to study this building, and roughly 300 prisons on 5 continents were modeled after Eastern State Penitentiary. So it was like, oh, gee.
You are just full of fun facts today.
I know. It was really hard not to keep going down rabbit holes.
Oh, I bet.
Because I was like, let me buy these walls nut street riots, okay? Like, I need to know. Wait, we don't need to know. Why am I? Calm down. I know you're excited. So Haviland designed Eastern State like a wheel, with 7 blocks radiating from the center core, all surrounded by a wall. This wall was 30 feet tall. And kind of doesn't sound like a big, like it's not huge, but when you're standing at the foot of that wall looking up, it's insurmountable. Like, you can't, like, it's impenetrable.
Look, coming from a girl who's 4 feet 11, 30-foot wall sounds absolutely impossible to.
You're like right at 5 feet. So how many Beckys would it take? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 6 Beckys.
6 Beckys.
It's 6 Beckys tall. Just to put it in perspective.
Yeah.
They took isolation of prisoners to heart. Whenever not in their cell, which was a rarity, they kept hoods over their heads of the prisoners. One, so if they escaped, they wouldn't know where the fuck they were going. Because everything kind of looked the same. And so it was already disheartening from the get-go. Second, so they could have a degree in anonymity. Look at me, I said that word almost right.
Nemo.
But that way, when they left jail, if someone saw them on the street, they wouldn't know. Like, oh, we were holed up together at Eastern State.
Wait, they had bags on their head all the time, or just when they were around other folks?
Just when they were around other folks.
Okay.
Like, if a guard came or anything like that, bag on the head. So butterfaces.
I was already leading that way and formulating what I was going to say.
We call it fame.
Got it right before me.
Originally, inmates were housed in cells that were 8 by 12 feet in size, and they could only be accessed by entering through a small exercise yard attached to the back of the prison. Only a small, tiny portal large enough to pass meals was open at the front of the cell block. So you'd have a cell, and then there'd be a little tiny, like, you know how when you go to the zoo and, like, there's a little hole for the animals to come out of, and it's usually a tiny bit smaller than the animal itself, like that. And then you go out in this exercise wall, and it's got fucking tall walls, and it's just like cement. That's it. That's all you can see.
And this was all constructed and made this way for their protection?
so they could repent in
Okay,
solitary confinement.
Sounds very psychologically damaging, but who am I?
Oh, yeah. Just a wee bit. And at the time, like nowadays, like it's in the city. So it's surrounded by houses and shit, which for sure have to be haunted. Okay. For sure.
Agreed.
But when they first built it, it was nothing around it. You know, it was like a good plot of land. You weren't hearing trucks or anything driving by. There wasn't trucks. You didn't hear horses and buggies. Sorry.
Wow, you didn't hear trucks driving by?
Because they weren't ready yet. Eventually, they did create cell doors in the front of the cell, but they were also very small, which required most prisoners to duck their head to leave the cell, which made it also very hard to attack a guard. So, like, they go to open the door and you go to attack the guard, the cell's like, it's even small for you, Becky.
Doubt it, but okay.
There was a lot of religious connotations having to do with how these were created, these cells. They were made of concrete with a single glass skylight representing the eye of God, suggesting that the prisoners that God was always watching them. And the halls were designed to have the feel of a church, which after walking down the hallways, it does have that weird feeling. The ceilings are arched and up.
Oh, okay.
Because like there's I think the first 3 cell blocks, and we'll talk more about it later, were just 1 story. They ended up adding a 2nd story on the remaining ones. But in these original ones where everybody was in solitary confinement, it's just real tall, oval up. You can hear the voice echoing just like you would in a church. And that long straight hallway. The outside the cell was an individual area for exercise, enclosed by high walls so prisoners could not communicate. Exercise time for prisoners was synchronized, so no 2 prisoners next to each other would be out of the yard at the same time. So they were thinking this through. They were, however, allowed to guard it and even keep pets in their exercise yards, which is weird, but okay. Speaking of pets, there was even a dog who was an inmate at one time. In 1924... Pennsylvania Governor Gifford Pinchot, I don't know. Allegedly, and I don't like him anyways.
I was going to say, I'm not impressed with him, so I really don't care.
He allegedly sentenced Pep, the cat murdering dog, to a life sentence at Eastern State. Pep was allegedly assigned an inmate number C2559, and that is also seen in his buckshot.
First of all, y'all ain't got no motherfucking money because this is back in the day and you're going to waste it on this? I don't even have time for this. They're starving children on the street.
They said it was as a morale booster. Oh, so we just imprisoning every creature on God's earth? Okay, so that's really morale boosting.
Go pick up some strays and let them be the jailhouse dogs. We don't have to arrest them and put them on a mugshot.
For real. I bet you didn't even murder a cat. He was probably framed.
Bet.
No cap. Cell accommodations were actually really advanced for their time. They had
Tell me about this advancement.
They had a faucet with running water that ran over a flush toilet, as well as curved pipes along one wall, which served as a central heating kind of device, like those radiators in houses, but it was just on a wall. And that way, during the winter months, which is Pennsylvania, so it's fucking frigid. I mean, as a natural-born Floridian... Frigid. That way, water would keep the room reasonably heated. The toilets were flushed twice a week by a guards in the cell block, and they come in and do like that manual where you have a bucket of water, pour it in, and it flushes it down.
So your poo-poos just had to stay in there till flush day?
Just letting it float.
I would definitely be doing some training for my bowels to only shit the night before flush day.
Right. Hey, your flush day's tomorrow. Oh no, they put it off a whole nother day. Oh, I just smell my dookie.
My God, watches me through the light.
I didn't know he was a voyeur. So in 1829, this was huge, right? Even the White House had no running water. And the then president at the time, Andrew Jackson, even used a chamber pot. So like this was state of the art.
Oh, I'd be like, oh, hell nah. I'm the motherfucking president.
Yeah.
Y'all better get some
these
pipes up in here.
Shitting in there. And I mean, I'm
well,
sure
it's not like he cleaned his own chamber pot. So,
no.
God, that would probably end up being my job if I lived back there.
The smell. the smell alone and just pee rolling around it. Anyways, let's keep going. I can't handle that. Even the wealthiest Americans heated their homes with wood or coal fireplaces. So this was huge. The rolling Eastern State was not only isolation, but silence. 20 inches of masonry separated each cell. And the guards walking these corridors wore wool socks over their shoes to muffle their footsteps. So you wouldn't hear anybody. You'd be all alone.
And they thought this was good.
Oh, yeah. Because, God. The original plan was the 7 one-story wings, but by the time the three of them were completed, they were already overpopulated, leading to them adding those second stories. In 1831, work began on blocks 4, 5, 6, and 7, all two stories to accommodate the increasing number of convicts. Block 7 is completed in 1835. In 1832, however, was their first escape. An inmate who served as a warden's waiter lowered himself to the roof of the front of the building. Once he captured, this inmate would escape in the same manner in 1837. The system of physical isolation was expensive and cumbersome and increasingly controversial. No wonder. Even at Eastern State, where it was created, the Pennsylvania system gradually broke down, and by the 1870s, half of all Eastern State's prisoners lived with a cellmate.
We knew that was coming.
Mm-hmm.
Can't keep them by themselves for long. There's too many.
I was like,
too many crimes being committed.
Right? I rolled up, Jimmy, and I just saw your note, and I was like, what the fuck? Who wrote that? They hacked my thing. These fucking ghosts. I'm so dumb. Toward the end, cell blocks 14 and 15 were built hastily due to overcrowding, and they were built and designed by prisoners.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Right?
Really?
And cell block 15 was for the worst behaved prisoners, and the guards were gated off from there entirely. So they were super, super alone. Cell block 15 is also death row, and it's super fucking creepy.
And it was built by inmates.
It has a singular shower, and it's small and cramped. There are stalagmites right now forming because there's like just so much moisture. So they're like the little nubs, you know?
That's so cool.
And it's like a real low...
Spooky as fuck,
yeah,
huh?
oh, yeah. And it's like... So one of the things about Eastern State now is that in some of these old cells, they have artists come in and have artistic installations. In this particular cell block, there are no bars left just about. So they put clear tubes where the bars were so you could walk in that cell and just kind of experience what it would be like behind those bars, which is fucking... No, thank you. I'm good.
I'll take pictures from over here. Go ahead, Jimmy. Get on in there.
And as you're walking closer to this cell block these days, there's a creepy song playing. It's made by David Lee Powell, who was a death row inmate with the longest time awaiting sentence to be carried out, 32 years.
Oh.
He was a mathematical genius and created a song on chance by flipping a dime. Powell invented a process to randomize the rhythms of the notes. He had no way to hear the music he composed. It only existed as a theory in his head until years later when his lawyer, working on one of Powell's appeals, was able to have a pianist play the piece for Powell over the phone. And here's the piece.
That was nice.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't feel nice when you're in there and it's just echoing through the walls and you're standing there in death row. In death row, they had one set of bars, and then there was a space where the inmates could walk back and forth, and then another set of bars for their individual spots. They stayed in there all the time. They barely ever went out to the exercise yard. They shared one shower stall, and it's super fucking dark and creepy in there, and the noise just reverberates. And as it was dusk, it was already just like, there's water dripping on you. I'm like, I'm not about this, dog.
I feel like you know nothing about how to set a vibe, Jen.
Not only did they build the cell blocks, these prisoners, they also used them to build and modify the prison as capacity was constantly being reached. What was meant to originally hold 300 prisoners was by the 1920s forced to house 2,000.
Oh,
More and more cells are constructed, including ones built below ground without windows, light, or plumbing. So what started out state-of-the-art reverted
quickly.
very quickly. In 1911, cell block 12 was completed, wedged between blocks 6 and 7, and it's drastically different from the blocks that preceded it. Built of light-colored reinforced concrete, the block consists of 3 floors with 40 cells each. There are no arched ceilings, and instead of skylights, each cell had a narrow window. By 1913, Eastern State Penitentiary officially abandoned the solitary system and operated as a congregate prison until its closure in 1970. In 1971, there was like a riot in Philly, and they temporarily housed some inmates there, but it officially closed in 1970. Guards at the penitentiary were said to have come up with a variety of torturous regimens to punish inmates for the slightest infraction. It was said that prisoners would often be soaked in freezing water and left in the open during the winter months. Prisoners would also be strapped in a chair with restraints and starved for days. As we were walking through Eastern State, every cell block, there was one that looked like a barber chair. And I was like, in my knowledge, I know that a lot of prisons do have a barber shop. Although it was, to me, weird that they had one, because it's more of a social thing, just about. So for a solitary confinement kind of prison to have one, and then one on each block, that was kind of weird. And there's a skylight right above it. And of course, I'll post pictures on socials for you guys to see how fucking creepy this is.
Yeah.
But we would walk up to these cells and be like, the fuck? Like, I get it's a barber chair, but why does this make me feel so unsettled? They weren't barber chairs. They were called mad chairs.
Mm-hmm.
And they would put the inmates in there, strap them down tightly.
5-point restraint.
Mm-hmm, and then leave them in there for days without food, without water. Which, I mean, they do have restraint chairs like, today, but they don't do it like that, They don't fucking shut them up in a room for weeks at a time.
Not for weeks.
No. There's mandates now. There's laws.
They do have tables inside cells that they still use 5-point leather restraints on when they're
Losing their shit.
really
Becoming a harm to themselves.
wild.
Mm-hmm.
And those are creepy. And they're not supposed to be in them for days, but,
Sometimes things happen when heads are turned.
Exactly.
In July 1923, inmate Leo Callahan and 5 accomplices armed with pistols successfully scaled the eastern wall after holding up a group of unarmed guards. I just was thinking of, what's her name, who owns Goop? Who named her kid Apple? Gwyneth Paltrow. Dressed as a guard, like, don't get me, guys. Smell my vagina, smell a scented candle. Callahan is the only one who was never recaptured. And I think he's literally the only person that ever escaped and
Made it
into
the wind.
All of Callahan's accomplices were apprehended, including one that made it as far as Honolulu.
Oh.
In 1924, inmates started eating in dining halls. The night tours, the twilight tours, they don't open all of the prison, so we didn't get to see the hospital wing, which probably is haunted as shit.
For sure.
But it's super dangerous. I mean, everything is in an active state of decay and crumbling and stuff like that, especially these areas that were built by inmates. And this is one of those areas. And we happened to talk to one of the tour guides about, he was like, you guys busy? Are you leaving anytime soon? We're like, no. He's like, well, I will take you guys on a personally guided tour, and it's free. And we're going to show you where the kitchens and dining halls are. Like, fucking sign me up, brother.
Hold on. Just you and Jimmy or other people too?
Other people too.
How many other people?
I think there was like 8 of us total.
Okay. Because, I'm feeling like when he's like, hey, you guys doing anything later? Anybody expecting you? No? Okay, cool.
Oh, shit. See, this is why Jen's going to die, because I do that stuff. I'd be like,
don't worry. It's free.
Fucking free.
After it gets dark, just the 8 of you. And
Why?
Jennifer is like, the fucking van just pulled up and offered her candy and she got inside.
I'm like, if it's free, it's for me. I fucking am
Immediately
down.
when he said, are you doing anything after this? Got anywhere to be? Red flags were all over the place. But you're still here, so
don't worry.
You made it, but whatever.
Like, Jen, come on now.
You worry me. You worry me.
And so,
Especially when you threw your hand up and he's like, no, it's free.
it's great. So it's no worries.
Come with me. I'll take you to the private unauthorized areas. No one's allowed to go.
Well, you know what makes it even more fucked up? He's like, okay, so I have to unlock us to get us in there, and he gets us all in there.
Of course. It just keeps getting better, Jen.
And
Red flags all over the place.
And then he locks us up in so nobody can wander in.
So proud of you. So proud of you.
You know how Piccadilly is?
No.
The restaurant?
No, I've never been.
So it's a cafeteria style. So like imagine when you're in school, you get a tray, you say, I want this, and they give you that. That's a kind of Piccadilly style. That's what they did with the kitchen. They changed the kitchen from like normal, where they'd put them on trays and send them out. And they had like, it was so sad. Like they had great meals, but by the time it got on the tray and out to that wing and to that last inmate, that shit was stone fucking cold.
Yeah. 100%. That's how it is in jails and prisons now.
So like they were eating cold as shit.
Yeah.
You know? Now they had these dining halls that they could all like hang out and congregate in. There are pictures of these halls where like there's Christmas decorations, like very minute ones, but still
Nonetheless.
That shit is crumbling as a motherfucker though, and it is creepy as shit. It was raining like Seattle when we went to Philadelphia, so it had been raining for a couple days. Everything was underwater. Like, it was so like very dangerous. Very dangerous.
Not to mention the guy who took you on a self-free tour and locked you in afterwards.
Right. So
Not to mention the danger involved there.
oh, dang, I forgot to tell you this part. I forgot this. This is the music written by that inmate.
Oh. Beautiful.
That was very unsuccessful. Hold on. Okay. One of the things that they gave us on that little old kitchen tour, well, they didn't give it to us. He had like a big like laminated menu from that time. So I was going to read you guys some of the meals. Let's see. It's a little foggy, so it's hard to read. So for Thursday morning, they had grilled mixed stewed fruits, French toast, 2 slices, syrup, bread, coffee, milk, and sugar. For lunch on Saturday, they would have beef broth stew with vegetables, 2 hot rolls, vegetables and a salad with French dressing, bread, coffee, and milk. That night, they would have tomato soup, oyster crackers, applesauce, bread, tea, milk, and sugar and all that stuff to go with it. They fed these motherfuckers like
good
around the clock, but like when you have somebody full, they ain't gonna be wanting to run and fight. You sluggish.
Exactly.
Here you go. So you can take an exam.
So I can take an exam?
So you can examine his.
Oh, I was like, is there a test after?
Let me get my Scantron out.
Left it at home. Oops. I'm sorry, you can't test today.
They had a industrial oven, and they would actually trade things with other prisons. They were the bread making prison. There was a sister prison like a couple miles away. They had farms, and they would grow vegetables and supply the vegetables. So it was like a way that they could be self-reliant. Who knew forced labor wouldn't be quality, though? And as time went on, most of the kitchen has actually become dilapidated.
Oh, yeah. They had fried potato cakes.
Right?
Peas and carrots.
I mean, and every meal, like milk, tea, coffee, sugar. And it was all like, back in those days, that was like the real shit. Like somebody went out, they probably got some Amish ass butter.
Probably.
In 1926, construction began on a cell block 14, Eastern State's second 3-story cell block. Any space between the blocks is now nearly gone. The penitentiary, intended to hold 250 inmates, now holds 1,700.
Now 1,700. Sorry, I'm really enthralled with the menu.
I shouldn't have given it to you.
Baked macaroni au gratin. That sounds really good. With bread pudding, with custard sauce. Bruh, can I go eat here? That sounds
3 fucking full-ass meals a day. I would be so fucking fat when I left that prison.
Oh my God, yeah. I wouldn't run either. I'd be like, no, I'm good, bro. Y'all go ahead. I'm going to stay here and hold the fort down.
Yeah. Oh, be homeless on the streets or have these three hots in a cot. I'll tell you the 3 hots. And there's a lot of people that are still like that to this day. So in 1929, Al Capone arrives at Eastern State Penitentiary for an 8-month stay. An article in the Philadelphia Public Ledger, August 20th, 1929, describes Capone's cell. The whole room was suffused in the glow of a desk lamp, which stood on a polished desk. On the one-scrim walls of the penal chamber hung tasteful paintings, and the strains of a waltz were being emitted by a powerful cabinet radio receiver of handsome design and fine finish. The cell is now actually replicated to what they believe. There's no pictures of his cell. There are some written things, and they're actually not even sure if that is the cell in particular that Capone stayed in, but they did it's with the greatest odds that it was probably this one by determining the paint layers. And so there was like some unique paint layers around that time, which wouldn't have normally been in a cell block. So it made sense that it might have been Capone's. Al Scarface Capone was arrested outside a Philadelphia movie theater in May 1929 for carrying a concealed, unlicensed .38 caliber revolver and handed a 1-year sentence. And as we remember, old Pone had the SIF, but this was at the height of his crime, before the downfall of his health. This was the same year as the St. Valentine's massacre. There's not like for sure been like a ghost experience for Capone. There was many nights that he would wake up screaming from a nightmare, going like, Jimmy, don't get me. Jimmy, don't get me. This Jimmy was actually believed to have been the spirit of Jimmy Clark, one of the men killed by Capone's execution orders in the St. Valentine's massacre. Even after Capone was released at Eastern State Penitentiary, the entity continued to torment Capone. Out of desperation, Capone even hired a medium, but that didn't seem to work. He eventually was released 2 months early than his sentence dictated for good behavior. Such a good boy.
Why do I feel like we've covered this before?
We've talked about Capone before, but we've never like went in. Like we haven't talked about like as the subject of a podcast, but he's been in like we talked about syphilicide. Remember?
Yeah. Did we talk about East State Penitentiary in Gettysburg?
Yeah, I think we did a little bit.
I remember talking about Capone and being in prison too, and him when he really lost his mind there, and the inmates stopped messing with it because they were like, "We're not going to get anything."
That's when he was at Alcatraz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why, because this is so similar to Alcatraz. Okay. I'm like, am I over here losing my mind? Am I a psychic? Because I feel like we have done all this before. This is why, because this is so similar to Alcatraz, and you did Alcatraz.
No, we were talking about Alcatraz for some reason.
Okay, I'm really fucking going crazy.
I really honestly think that was all having to do with List and syphilis and we were talking about...
I'm going to figure it out.
We'll figure it out. By the 1930s, the prison was sorely outdated. Its heating and plumbing systems were outdated. The corridors and outdoor spaces were never intended to handle the huge crowds of prisoners that filled them. The aging prison became increasingly hard to manage, expensive to maintain, and dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, and of course you have all these...
Just that menu alone is hard to maintain the cost.
Fuck, yeah, right?
Also, if I cooked that for my family for a week, that grocery bill would be ridiculous.
So when you are in the cell blocks that have 2 stories, some of them have like a netting on that because it was open up to that 2nd story. Well, they put like a mesh there, and they would take the meal cart and just roll it down the center of the thing. There was like it was made to do that, but these inmates would reach their hands and push the guards off, and they would fall to their death. So they had to put that mesh plating in place where like it still let the light through, but if somebody got pushed down, they would fall on that and not die. I'm like, how many died before they decided to do that? Like, oh my God, this is becoming a fucking problem. Jesus Christ. In 1933 and 1934, there were riots concerning insufficient facilities, overcrowding, and low wages. The most famous escape of Eastern State Penitentiary was the work of 12 men in 1945. The most infamous among them was Willie Sutton, a.k.a. Slick Willie, a.k.a. Willie the Actor, a.k.a. the Gentleman Bandit, a.k.a. the Babe Ruth of bank robbers, who was sentenced to...
I want a bunch of AKAs.
I know. I need it. He was sentenced to Eastern State In 1934 for a brazen machine gun robbery of the Corn Exchange now. The Corn Exchange Bank. It was in Philadelphia, but I felt like it should have been in Iowa.
Clearly.
He had already tried to escape 5 times before this.
I love his perseverance.
Right?
Never give up.
Never. Keep on keeping on, you know what I'm saying? The escape was planned and largely executed by Clarence Kleine Glindenst, a plasterer, stonemason, burglar, and forger who had a reputation as a prison scavenger. They worked in 2-man teams of 30-minute shifts, the tunneling crew, using spoons and flattened cans as shovels and picks, and they slowly dug a 31-inch opening through the wall of cell 68, then dug 12 feet straight down into the ground, another 100 feet out beyond the walls of the prison. With fucking spoons, y'all.
Grit.
The tunnel was shored up with scaffolding, illuminated, and even ventilated. At the halfway point, it linked up with the prison sewer system, and the crew created a operable connection between the 2 pipelines to deposit their waste while ensuring that noxious fumes were kept out of the tunnel. That's ingenuity.
It is. That is finest.
The tunnel escaped inspection several times thanks to a false panel Kleine created to match the plaster walls of the cell and concealed that panel by putting up like a little wastebasket in front of it.
That's all it took to fool him.
Yeah. Ain't gonna say this.
Giant hole in the wall. I got it. Put that tiny garbage can in front of it. Don't ever know.
So in the morning of April 3rd, 1945, they escaped via cell 68 on their way to breakfast. 2 of the escapees, including Sutton, they were returned to Eastern State mere minutes after their freedom. Kleine made it a whole 3 hours before getting caught, and by the end of the day, half the escapees was returned to the prison while the rest were caught within a couple months. And it's funny because you can see a picture of him, and he's like coming out of the hole right outside the prison.
And they're sitting there like,
not today. And it's cool because like
pop his head up like a bunny out of a hole.
Right. You can go into cell 68 now, and they have it where it's like they put cement in the hole, but they still have it kind of dug out a little bit. They did go back in the 80s and I think the early aughts and did like ground penetrating, sonar, and they could see all the structures and stuff. So they learned a lot about how they did it, because it wasn't until recently that they knew how they did it. They were put in the Klondikes, illegal, completely dark, solitary confinement cells secretly built by the guards in the mechanical space below one of the cell blocks. The spaces are miserable, tiny holes that aren't big enough to stand up or wide enough to lie down in. That same year that all this happened, Pennsylvania legislator recommended abandoning Eastern State Penitentiary. During the renovations in the 1930s, an additional 30 incomplete inmate-dug tunnels were discovered.
Them bitches was digging in every cell.
They was trying, son. In 1958, the city of Philadelphia certifies it as a historic property. And then in 1961, the cell blocks are desegregated. That same year, inmate John Klausenberg tricks a guard into opening the cell of another inmate. And with the cells open, the inmates overpower the guard and begin the largest riot in the prison's history. Several hours later, a large force of police guards and state troopers reclaim the prison. The riot fuels discussions to close Eastern State. In 1965, they designated it as a National Historic Landmark. And by 1970, it closes. More than 100 inmates escaped from Eastern State during its 142 years of active use. And over the course of its history, it housed over 75,000 inmates who had committed crimes from burglary and bank robbery to murders and rape. While the prison was operating, they maintained a death ledger. This book kept track of deaths that occurred within the walls as well as the causes behind it. Over 1,000 entries were written into the death ledger.
Damn.
With commonly stated cause of death being suicide by hanging and illnesses such as tuberculosis. 2 guards and several inmates were murdered behind the wall, and at least 50 prisoners committed suicide, and hundreds others died from disease and old age. So thousands of souls
roaming the halls
on top of the 75,000 who just came through the doors.
Yeah.
During the 18th and 19th century, masturbation was actually listed on the death ledger as a cause of death for several inmates. This includes inmate 3477, who was 18, and inmate 4033, who was 27. The usual cause of death was prompted by the unfounded belief that masturbation could lead to certain illnesses and even death. Of the 18 cases of insanity listed in the penitentiary's 1838 report, 2/3 of it were thought to have been caused by excessive masturbation. Saying crazy.
Okay.
From 1971 to 1991, it was closed. There was nothing being done with it. It was falling into decay and ruin. But in 1991, stabilization and preservation efforts began. In 1994, it was open for historic tours on daily basis. And at that time, people had to wear hard hats inside liability waivers. Like, if you come in here and you die, it ain't on us.
It ain't on us.
You did it. You willin'.
You chose this.
More than 10,000 people visited in the first year. And by 2008, it was open 7 days a week, 12 months a year for tours, and no longer required signed liability waivers. ESP, which is the initials for it, which I don't know why I didn't use that the entire fucking episode, is now preserved ruin, with some renovations having been done, such as the revived synagogue from the 1920s, which is really cool to see. The rest is to remain as it's seen today, with just enough help to keep it from devolving completely. They have an annual haunted tour, and in the summer they have the Twilight tours, and a ton of things were actually filmed there. It was even the inspiration for Steve Buscemi's Animal Factory. He is the one who does not all of it, but a good part of the audio tour was Steve Buscemi, which is like kind of neat.
Oh, yeah.
It inspired the video game The Suffering. 12 Monkeys Return to Paradise and Transformers Revenge of the Fallen was filmed there. And Tina Turner herself filmed her 1985 music video there, One for the Living. Now, it's no wonder, with all the discord and death within these walls, that some spirits may have not completed their sentences even in the hereafter. One of the first stories told of ghostly activity was by famed Chicago gangster Al Capone, and that was the Jimmy. Many people have reported that Cell Block 12 is a high area of paranormal activity where cackling and whispers are heard and the apparition of a prisoner is seen. On episode 5, season 1 of Ghost Hunters, the crew have caught on camera an apparition apparently moving across Cell Block 2. And in Cell Block 6, shadowy figures are often seen sliding among the walls, and the sound of whispers, screams, and laughter have been heard. So we have one from Cell Block 6 that is a potential EVP. Roll it, Jimmy.
Is anyone in here?
Is that a person or just something y'all picked up?
I think it's something he just picked up. He thinks it's something else. He's like, I don't remember there being. I'm like, sir.
Was there anybody in there when y'all were doing it?
I would just say a shockingly low amount of people. We did not run into people very often. At the beginning of the tour.
I don't know. I'm with Jimmy on this one.
Yeah. The beginning of the tour, because they have you keep going in the same direction as everybody, but everybody ends up kind of splitting off once you get into the main hub of the wheel, and you don't necessarily have to follow. You can just pick the numbers on the audio tour. And that's where we all splintered off, and there was often times that we'd be the only one in that cell block. And I think this was one of the ones that we were probably alone, but I'm not sure. On Cell Block 4, many have seen ghostly, anguished faces and hear loud whispers. One of the most legendary tales come from Gary Johnson, who helps maintain the crumbling old lock set at the prison. In the early 1990s, he had just opened an old lock in Cell Block 4 when he said a force gripped him so tightly that he was unable to move. He described a negative, horrible energy that exploded out of the cell. He said tormented faces appeared on the cell walls, and that one form in particular beckoned to him. Here's a whispering EVP, possibly.
That, like, heavy breathing? Oh, yeah, that's...
I thought it was Jimmy just...
I thought it was Jimmy, too.
You guys tell us. I don't know. Guests claim to have a glimpse of a man standing in a guard tower on the property. However, there's no way to physically get to the top of that tower today. The brick stairs crumbled away years ago. The catwalk is in an area where many paranormal events have also occurred. The catwalk is where they would push them off sometimes. Here, a shadow figure was caught on video, and people have felt extreme temperature fluctuations. Here's a piece of audio from the catwalk.
We are going up the stairs in cell block 7.
So where this is at, people were close by. So those are definitely people. This is one of the few areas that you can actually walk up to a catwalk. That's me being afraid of shit. I was scared shitless because it was like, it's this wide, man. And I'm scared of heights. So I was like, I need to make it up and just loop around. And I made it up and they came right on fucking down. And then Jimmy's coming to touch me. I'm like, why don't touch me? All right, Jimmy, cut it. Many have reported being watched and hearing cries at the institution's infirmary. Other employees and tourists hear whispering, giggling, and even weeping while exploring the property. When they investigate where the noises come from, they'll never find the source. Here's some miscellaneous weird noises. This is the last clip before the end of the episode.
The old knees are...
Hold on 1 second.
There's a woman in the background, but I'm sure she's from the spoke. Oh, the knocking?
Hold on 1 second.
Oh. Creepy.
I don't think we've been down here.
You haven't been down these.
Is that y'all's loud ass footsteps or somebody else?
Ours.
Okay.
It's all like slate and stone. You can hear the sirens downtown. Where are you hearing EVPs on any of these, Jimmy?
I can't hear anything other than the police siren is distracting to me.
Yeah. Do the ha-ha.
Play it again. Oh, okay. Yeah. I heard it that time.
26. 1, 2, 3, go.
The what?
No hallway.
I don't have to be in here.
Oh, that's Jimmy breathing.
Do you hear that whispering sound?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. It sounds like someone's whispering.
There was nobody around us. And when we walked to the end of this hallway...
Shh, I want to listen. Oh, you can fucking hear somebody whispering, bro.
We did not whisper.
Oh, that gives me chills.
All right, Jimmy, cut it.
Y'all couldn't hear it when you were there, the whispering?
So when we walked into it was really dark because this was getting close to the end, and you walked into the end because you could walk in at both sides, in the middle of the spoke or at the end of the spoke. And so we were at the end of that spoke. And this is one of the cell blocks that you cannot walk down. And there's pictures of it. It's dark. There's a little bit of moonlight coming through. And as soon as we walked to that area, both of us were like, don't like this at all. I don't like any of this. There was nobody near us. Everybody had split off. A lot of people had already left at that point because it was getting late. I do not remember hearing any whisper.
Nope. Mm-mm.
And it was funny because like they placed the ghost of Eastern State. I'm like, this is where they are for sure.
Oh, that was fucking creepy. And then the whispering. No, I almost want to leave your room right now.
So the apparition of a mysterious woman was also spotted so often that employees named her the Soap Lady, not to be confused with the Soap Lady apparition that apparently is at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. She sits in the last cell on the second floor wearing white. The second floor held the women's cell block when the prison was still optional. And these are the ghosts that I know of. And that's everything that we experience. Now, here comes the fun part. Our friend Alicia, our sister from another mister, she has a beautiful house that she had built, right?
Yes.
But that shit is haunted as fuck.
Yes.
So we're going to have an episode that we're going to record at Alicia's house and try to catch some ghosts. And I was like, man.
FYI, we forgot to put that on the calendar.
Yeah, we need to put that on the calendar for sure. For sure. So I was trying to think of like things that we'll probably need. So I have some things for us to, I'm going to show you. Hold on. So one of them hasn't come yet.
Up. Is it going to be like Ghostbuster shit? Because I'm super excited.
First off, we have water from the sacred river Jordan.
Fuck yes. Oh my God, this is amazing.
That's actually an antique. And then like on the inside, it says not for human consumption, but it's apparently the water that
Can I open
Jesus.
it?
Yeah, you can open it. That Jesus was baptized in.
Okay, first of all, thanks, Joel. Joel Osteen. I feel like this is one of those late night things where it's like, are you in financial strain? For $5, you can get this little thing of holy water and it'll make everything work.
You fucking know. You know.
This is awesome.
So I already had prayer beads, but I got us an extra set.
What is that, a rosary?
Yeah. One of the things that's coming is, remember me talking about the eggshells?
Do you think this will burn in my hand?
It didn't burn. So you know the eggshell thing I was telling you about?
No.
When we were on a ghost tour in Key West, they were like, at the end, you put it on your temples and stuff. So I ordered some of that. That's on its way.
Excellent.
And, of course, this.
There's like some freaky feathers up in this bitch. And this shit. Ooh, sage.
Exactly. And it comes with an abalone shell.
Oh my God, this is so cool.
So we could take the feather and do
What's the crystal? What's the purple crystal do?
For safety.
Excellent. What's the humping people do?
Oh, that's to hold the abalone shell.
Oh, okay. Oh my God, this is so fucking cool.
So you put the sage in the shell.
Is this like
that's selenite? Selenite?
Does it attract?
That's clearing or something like that. But you put the thing in the shell. Yeah, you definitely. And then you take your feather and waft it.
Oh, okay, this is our shell to put in the thing.
And then you use the feather to waft it to clear an area.
Is this to get the spirits gone?
Yes. So
okay. Before we get them gone, can we bring them to us?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring all the Ouija boards. Don't remember that one. I think it was like a type of wood that was also protective.
This is like the real sage you see in the movies. It's all twined together.
Right? And there was two different kinds. One's like for purity or something. One's a clearing, and I don't know. Just fancy.
It is.
Etsy, y'all. I'll link the shops. I'll link the shops that I got these from because it was just really fucking cool. And of course, I'll put pictures on the socials. I've got all our Ouija boards. And so I was going to bring the Ouija boards. We can do some Ouija-ing.
Yeah. I want to talk to the spirits first, see what's happening, see what's going on.
And then we can bless the shit out of ourselves.
And then be like, all right, y'all can bounce now. We're done.
We're done. Okay, we're good.
Sage.
Get your prayer beads.
Crystals.
What was it, the thing that you said about the beads, Jimmy? Oh, holy anal beads.
I'll let Alicia put those and her anus and hold on to those for safekeeping.
At least you clench it tight. Clench it. But
if the beach dropped, that means she got the shit scared of her and it's time to roll.
One night I was drinking wine and I was thinking about this and I was like,
any story where you're talking about anal beads and then it leads into it. One night I was drinking wine. I feel like we can stop now, Jen. I don't need to know anymore.
Jimmy's like, keep going, keep rolling. So I was drinking wine and I was thinking about it. I'm like, well, we're going to have to bring the Ouija boards, but like when we're done, we got to protect ourselves. So then I was like ordering all this shit off Etsy. I was trying to just order holy water and I'll probably try to run over to the Catholic church down the street and see if they'll just give me some, because apparently that shit is expensive as fuck to try to order off of there. And I'm not even sure if it's legit. So I got the water from the River Jordan, which I'm not sure if it's legit either, but I was like, it's $12. I can't not buy it.
Right? I mean,
what if it does work?
The box looks legit. The bottle looks legit. The cross on top looks legit.
Also, I figured we'd take the prayer rug with us. That's a Muslim prayer rug behind you that Jimmy brought from overseas. So, like, definitely going to bring that and all our holy shit. So, all the religions, spiritualities.
So, I feel like I need to purchase an item or two to go along with the Ouija board to beckon the spirits.
Yeah, so we've got the voice recorder for EVPs. We need what's that one that monitors the electricity in there? We need one of those.
Okay.
I don't know, but like I was getting into it and I was like, I need to put the fucking phone down. Because they were like, now I was getting into like because I was trying to find a pendulum, because those are also ways of divination for ghosts or whatever. But then they like started having wands and shit with like the chakras, and I was this close to buying them, and I was like, Jennifer, stop your shit right now. Finish what you're doing. Do not buy any wands. But I was close, man.
So good.
It was so cute though. It was like rocks and shit.
You know they got that store down in Galveston too.
Oh, that's
the
right.
witchery.
We need to go to the witchery.
Yes. Let's go next week.
I'm down 1,010%.
Yes.
No, Jimmy, you can't come.
Thursday.
I like every time we plan on doing something, Jimmy, we're going to go to the Crescent Hotel. Oh, can I come? No. No.
Sorry.
It's us only. Sorry.
We'll bring your picture.
Only the talent.
We'll bring your picture and put it up. So it's like you're there.
You just get really close and put your hands in.
We'll take selfies with it. Put them on a stick.
Oh my God. I'm going to fucking do that now. Sweet Jesus.
Jimmy, stop saying you didn't go. You're right there in the pictures.
So my cascula, or I don't remember how to pronounce it, the egg shells that have been crushed up into fine powder, that's on its way. I think that one's a
loving it.
Caribbean culture kind of thing. I don't know.
We don't even really got to beckon the spirits because they're already there.
Well, it's not that. It's like, I want to be able to walk away, and I don't care what kind of juju I got to throw down. Let me throw a Star David in here as a ninja star. You know what I'm saying? Not today, ghosts.
Well, I don't live there, so I don't really care. Just kidding. Just kidding. My family does.
But like, you guys, I can't wait for this one. We'll go more into detail, but the most recent thing was one of the girls came downstairs and let them know that there was somebody knocking at their window on the second story.
And Emma's actually had the interaction and spoke to him. And she was so little that it wasn't like a made up, she's still so little. Yeah.
She's just always going to be little.
And we'll share that story when we do the episode.
Well, so we're spooky ready. We're continuing our ghost hunting career.
Yes.
Taking this shit on the road. So until next time.
Stay safe.
Keep your head on a swivel.
And don't bring it too close to home. Unless you're going ghost hunting.
Unless your prison's home.
Yeah. Or you're ghost hunting at your brother's house.
In that case, don't drop the soap.
No.
That's not even a theoretical thing.
Not even. Not a play on words, not a pun, nothing.
Keep it tight.
It's truth.
Keep it tight. Keep it right.
Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode of Too Close to Home, don't forget to rate and subscribe to us on most platforms. Follow us on our social media at Too Close Home Pod on Facebook, at Too Close Podcast on Instagram, or if you have your own Too Close to Home experience, shoot us your story at tooclosetohome@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening.